right, good morning. You are watching this lesson because you are out on the music field trip. I hope you had a great time or you're going to have a great time. Make sure you watch this so you can figure out what you missed. This is what we did on Friday. We really focused on Marxist literary theory. Don't forget to make sure that you're reading your author study novel. Book 1 is now due May 9th because the Reading SOL was moved to May 8th. So we spent the first 20 minutes reading your author study novel, so make sure you're keeping up with that. Then we are going to talk about Marxist literary theory together. You're going to read an article called Poverty in Young Adult Literature on your own. And then you're going to complete a social class analysis and mini research. And again, this needs to be done on your own because you weren't here to do it in class. So what is Marxist literary theory? This literary theory is all about class differences, economic or otherwise, as well as what capitalism does to a society. So if you're reading a dystopian novel in your author study, this theory about social class lends itself quite nicely because dystopian likes to explore class systems and how they might break down. Marxism tries to reveal what your social class standing has on your overall life experience. And we talked about this when we were overviewing all of them. This is the analysis of social class standing within your novel. Quick review of who was Karl Marx. He was Prussian-born journalist, economist, philosopher, sociologist, and revolutionary socialist. He helped write the Communist Manifesto, which was about the problems of class and capitalism. Marxism is the theory that human societies develop and grow through class struggle. So this literary theory is not really about communism, it's really about studying social classes within a novel. So here are some questions to ask as you're reading. Who benefits the most in this novel's world? Is it the elite? Is it the upper class? Is it middle class? Is there a specific caste who benefits? How is the lower class or working class oppressed in the world of your novel? Whom does it benefit if the work or effort is accepted, successful, believed? What is the social class of the author? Which class does the work claim to represent? What values does the novel reinforce, and what values does the novel subvert? And what social class do the characters represent, and how do characters from different classes interact or conflict? Let's take an example from To Kill a Mockingbird. The social class focus within the novel is really the professional class, because if you think of Atticus and his brother, both doctors and lawyers respectively, they're really reinforcing that professional class. Even though Atticus says multiple times that they're poor, they are clearly not the poorest within the society. Which class benefits the most? Clearly it's the professional class. Throughout the novel, Atticus is kind of held up as this godlike figure and seen as really great because he supports learning and reading and all races, etc. How is the lower class oppressed? Well, think of the Yules and then separately the African American community. The Yules are kind of sanctioned to live behind the junkyard, and even though they are seen as terrible people, that's kind of also how Harper Lee chooses to portray them, that because they are kind of poor and low, they don't know better. You can also think of the Cunninghams, who are seen as better people, but also still making poor choices due to their lack of education, which isn't great. Also think of the African American community, that it's still a segregated society, and that even though we love Calpurnia, she still is not allowed to live near Scout and Jem and Atticus. What values does To Kill a Mockingbird uphold or subvert? Well, really upholds quote-unquote Southern values, so people being neighborly and respecting others, but it does subvert introversion, that it allows Boo Radley to be introverted, and that just because you kind of stay inside and aren't social doesn't mean that you're a bad person or that you're evil or doing crazy things. Okay, so that kind of concludes the mini lesson. Next up, what I want you to do is go ahead and pull up the Poverty in YA Literature article, and that's found in your calendar. I'm going to show you right now. Don't mind my comments on the side. So you'll see right there, it's hyperlinked, Poverty in YA Literature. And then as you read, you're going to write down the following. What is the difference between how sci-fi and fantasy social class is depicted versus realistic fiction? And make some connections to your author study novel. So you can do this on a sticky note if you want to take quick notes, or if you want, you can actually make a copy of this article and use the comments feature on the side. That's probably what I would do because I would tend to write more. And these notes will be helpful to you in the next activity. Okay, once you have read the article and annotated it, you, by yourself, because you weren't here, are going to choose which genre applies to your author study. So if you did realistic or historical fiction, and both of these documents are found on Google Classroom, You are going to identify the social class portrayed in your novel, research your social class using a reputable site or database, and create an MLA citation for the site you use. You can use EasyBib or Noodle Tools. Then you're going to answer the following questions in 1 to 2 paragraphs. If your novel's claims or portrayal of the class is believed or successful or accepted, who benefits? Okay, so think about that. So is it upper middle class? Is it lower class? Is it middle class African American? So think about who would benefit from your book. For your first paragraph, you're going to overview the class represented and your research, and then the second paragraph is answering that question. So if your novel's claims or portrayal of class is believed or accepted, who benefits and why? If you're reading a dystopian, science fiction, or fantasy novel, you're going to research class systems represented in dystopian fiction. Do you notice a pattern? Why do you think that is? And you're going to write 1 to 2 paragraphs answering these questions, also using MLA format for your citations. Your first paragraph will also overview of your research, connections to other books, and answering the question, what patterns or trends do you notice about your genre? And really explain your thinking here. In your second paragraph, does your book fit within what you've researched? Why or why not? And then you will submit that on Google Classroom. All right, so I hope this was helpful for you. You'll have a couple of extra days to complete this assignment since you weren't here, but when you look at the rubric, you'll notice that you've got 3 standards on there, and some of them are summative, so make sure you're taking time to complete that assignment. Bye.